What's going on, everyone? Welcome on into another episode of Golf on Tap. Today, we'll be recapping the 2024 Sony Open as Grayson Murray, of all people, pulled off a pretty epic win in a playoff over Keegan Bradley and Benny On. We'll also be talking about the rumors surrounding Wyndham Clark, as he could be possibly the next big piece of the PGA Tour heading to Live Golf. And we'll also be previewing the 2024 American Express, the third event of the new 2024 season here on the PGA Tour. As always, I'm Jack Bushman, joined by my partner, Ross Baran. Ross, we had a pretty good tournament here for the second consecutive week to kick off the new season, my man, and we got lots to talk about on today's show. But before we get into that, how you doing this afternoon? You staying warm?
I'm staying as warm as I can. I mean, everything that you guys have had for the past couple of days is now working its way out east. So I get all the trailers. I did not get as much snow. Everything kind of ended over Buffalo, which was nice. So I'm 45 minutes east. So I got a little light dusting, some drifting snow, but nothing too terrible.
And for those who are tuning in here along with me in the Chicagoland area, yeah, it's been a pretty brutal last couple of days. I think the high today was like -3. So hope everyone out there is staying warm. And again, please make sure to go and jump into the YouTube feed as well so you can interact with all of us. We love reading your comments, and go and tell us who you're tailing this week for the American Express 2024. And also make sure to use the promo code on tap with our sponsor, Bet Rivers, to get up to a $250 match. I think what we got to start with, though, on the show today, Ross, I think it's got to be Grayson Murray, man. I don't think anyone predicted him to come out of the playoff with those other two that I mentioned. Benny On and Keegan Bradley was in that final pairing, though, with Bradley to start Sunday. But a really awesome story for Grayson. He's been through a lot of hiccups, a lot of ups and downs. And for him to come away with this win after having to reestablish himself and get that PGA Tour card once again, I know it's not going to catch the headlines because of where we're at right now with football season and in the playoffs, but it was a pretty awesome finish on Sunday, and it was pretty awesome storyline for the winner as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it went head-to-head with football, which at this time of year, unless you're a golf diehard, I get it if you didn't watch. But also the unfortunate thing about this tournament was a lot of people missed. This is one of the better tournaments to start the year, because when we went into the back nine, as you and I were talking about before, there was like 11 or 12 guys within 1 to 2 shots as they made the turn go ending. Like, the leaderboard was crazy. You were watching people, someone's so-and-so goes to 17 under, then drops back down to 15. Someone pops to 16. Oh, so-and-so just moved to 4, or 3 people just moved to 14, and they're all wrapping up. And I was literally watching, trying to focus on, obviously you and I are big Keegan guys, but I was like, I was sitting there like, holy shit, we actually might have someone else not even in the final pairing go super low and take this from everyone.
Yeah, it was crazy. JT Poston got out there early. My boy, been on JT Poston for seemingly the last like 3 or 4 months now, as he's been knocking on the door. Fires a final round 61 to kind of get in the mix. We mentioned Keegan obviously being in that final group. Benny On was right there. Russell Henley was someone who had the lead for a little bit there too. Harris English and Andrew Putnam were playing alongside Poston. They were both hot. I mean, like you said, there were really like 12 guys who were kind of in the mix. Nick Taylor, for me as well, kind of choked down the stretch late. But, man, there were a lot of different avenues that this one could have gone, and a pretty cool last avenue that it ended up going.
Yeah, no, as soon as I'll be completely honest, when we went to a 3-man playoff, the inner golf fan in me was like, hell yeah. Like, let's go. We're the second week into the tour, and we're already at a 3-man playoff. Obviously, huge Keegan fan. When we look at that final 3, Grayson Murray was the last one I thought that was going to pull this one out.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, we talked a little bit about Keegan off air, man. It just felt like, to me, even though he was giving himself looks, it felt like that nervous Sunday scary type of Keegan that worries me from time to time, where I could tell the anxiety was a little bit high. I think he obviously knew how crucial each and every stroke was with so many guys being in contention. And the one thing I will say, man, to go in par 18 when you have a chance to win it in regulation, that pretty much told me it was a foreshadow to me that I knew Keegan wasn't going to win the playoff. But I certainly didn't think Grayson Murray was going to be the one to overtake him. I personally expected Benny On to be the one to come out of it.
Yeah, and like you said, Keegan is always his own biggest critic. And after the Ryder Cup snub, he came out moving forward that he realizes it's a boys' club and that I don't have friends that I thought I have on the tournament. I have to make my way by winning my way in. So you could definitely see that kind of take effect. You know, the first 3 days, he was lights out putting, knocking everything down. And like we kind of talked about off air, there were several chances on Sunday where he could have knocked down a putt and he just didn't roll it and hole it. He had several great looks. Like we said, realistically, Keegan probably could have won this tournament by 2 or 3 strokes if he knocks those down based on the looks he got. He didn't. He put himself in that situation. Like you said, he had a putt to win it outright on 18 or hole 72. Didn't do it. Put himself in a playoff because he didn't get it.
And I do want to mention that you last week, before you actually even jumped onto the show, you shouted out Keegan Bradley as someone who you were kind of looking to maybe get off to a hot start this season after getting snubbed from that Ryder Cup team. And man, what an opportunity that was there that kind of went by him. And he even said himself following that round that that was one of the most painful losses of his entire career because, I mean, what did he end up? So he was 14 under to start the day. He had to shoot a 66 to win that thing in regulation, and he couldn't go and do that on Sunday, man. Yeah, that's definitely disappointing for a player like Keegan Bradley, who has a lot to play for this season, even coming off of a very successful year last year as well. But there were a couple of guys who had those opportunities too, man. Benny On. I want to talk about Benny On here for a second because I also think Benny On could have won this tournament by 3 or 4 strokes. One, he actually had like a 23-foot eagle putt on the 72nd hole to win it outright. And then going back the day before on 18 on Saturday, I think he had like 40 yards left with his third shot. He ended up making bogey there. And then, of course, you know, it looked like he was the one who was going to win this playoff after his chip. His third shot from around the green went to like 4.5 feet. Grayson goes and holes a 45-footer. Next thing you know, Benny On's got a little bit of a knee knocker to force it to another hole. And it didn't even touch the hole, Ross. Like it wasn't really even close. So, man, Benny On lost a major opportunity in this one, too.
Yeah. Honestly, you and I were talking about it or texting about it earlier. I knew he was going to miss that putt. When he initially lined up, you could see he took a little extra time thinking it over. And he didn't back off and just reassess, clear his mind, anything. He just sat there and he hit it. And the second you saw that pause and he didn't go for it right away, and then he did, I was like, oh, well, it's over. And the second he rolled it, not even close. Like you said, didn't even lip it, didn't even come close. Just straight pulled it, rolled it right by. It's all such a big mental game that people don't realize. Like Keegan's anxiety, everything in that situation, you could see Benny On was thinking about what the repercussions of this putt are for him in his career, and he, instead of backing off, resetting, no, he just hit it, and guess what? You went wide.
Tough moment there for Benny On and for his backers. I know there were a lot of people who had money on Benny On, and he was someone I was thinking about last week too, but after how that finished, I am pretty glad that I wasn't on Benny On because there'd probably be a hole in my wall after he missed that 4.5-footer. Ross, I feel like we also got to talk about the Carl Yuan situation. He went absolutely bananas on Sunday. I believe he started the day 9 under to get himself back in contention. Didn't know it at the time because he was the first guy out of the group in contention to finish. But he needed a birdie on 18 to get into that playoff. Winds up making a par, but Ross, it probably should have been like a 7 or maybe an 8 because Carl Yuan pulled out a I want to say it was a 3-wood or a hybrid, doesn't really matter, out of the bunker with his approach onto the par 5 18th, and absolutely launched it over the grandstands that surround the green. And even through the replay, we saw that ball went out of bounds. They couldn't find it. Somehow, some way, though, Carl Yuan gets free relief. He ended up still making 5 and missing out on the playoff, but man, that feels like it's something that has to be changed. There's no way that PGA Tour players, the best golfers in the world, yeah, I get they maybe should get relief because the grandstands aren't normally there, but to get this amount of free relief after hitting a terrible shot feels like it's something that should be changed for the best golfers in the world, right?
Personally, it was the stupidest call I've ever seen the PGA Tour make, because if you watch the video, Carl launched it into the stands, not by a little bit, not like it hit the first or second row of the stands. Oh, I carried a little bit, launched it into the stands. And then the PGA goes, we reviewed the tape. We know where it went, but someone pocketed your ball because it went into the fan section. So because we can't find the ball, take a drop.
Yeah, I don't understand that. And that has to change because literally Carl Yuan could have still gotten up and down from there and gotten his way into the playoff despite literally nuking a ball basically off of the golf course. I mean, it wasn't even close, man. It wasn't close.
There's video evidence showing that if it goes into row 1 or 2 and someone pockets a ball, like, all right, I get it. If the grandstands weren't there, this thing would have been in row 40 in the nosebleeds.
It wasn't close. So I feel like that's probably, I think it was talked about a lot by a lot of golf circles, at least that I've seen so far throughout the week. So,
but also what we've left out is, in terms of not close, was the guy that actually won the tournament, Grayson Murray. No one had made a putt on 18 from over 18 to 20 feet the entire week. We get 3 guys on the 73rd hole, the first playoff, looking at 3 birdies. Benny On is at 4 feet. Keegan Bradley's at about 12, 14, somewhere in there. Grayson Murray's at 39 feet. Grayson Murray's the one that drains it.
And don't forget, he hit a palm tree with his drive out of that playoff, man. So he got a lucky break there. I think he had made like 29 or 30 feet of putts on the entire round before sinking that long one. But that's just, I mean, playoff golf and match play like golf in a little bit of a heartbeat, right? All of a sudden, Grayson Murray rolls in a 35, 39 footer, whatever it may be. And the guy with the 4-footer is a little bit shaky now. And that's what ended up happening. But a couple of crazy bounces there and a crazy finish from Grayson Murray to get the job done.
Well, I mean, it's good for Grayson Murray. Like, at this point, we're all kind of familiar with the story. It ran a lot yesterday. The recovering alcoholic, like figuring out his life. That's awesome. But also what a lot of people don't know is when the PGA Tour had that players meeting at the Canadian Open, it was mentioned several times that there was a very outspoken player calling for Jay Monahan to resign in front of Jay Monahan, to where he was responded by a tour official, I use quotes, tour official, to just play better, to which he responded, fuck off.
And it's pretty hilarious how full circle this all came this weekend.
The funny thing is, the tour official that told him to play better is Rory McIlroy, who has not won an event since that encounter. And now we have Grayson Murray has won 2 events since.
Grayson Murray goes and does what he did the same day that Rory McIlroy chokes it away on the DP World Tour. I think he 3-putted from 2.5 feet on 14 and then pulled his tee shot out of bounds into the water. Tommy Fleetwood finishes birdie to steal the victory from him. That same afternoon, Grayson Murray goes and picks up another win. I'll say he's playing a little bit better. Now he's in all the signature events. He's going to be going to the Masters the first time in his career. It's been, I'm sure, a whirlwind for Grayson Murray, but what this allows him, the freedom that this now allows him, like to actually go and pick out a schedule in advance and kind of let go of some of that stress on his shoulders, right? He's got a spot into the big boy events for the rest of the season. I'd certainly say that's playing better. But super cool to see. Like you said, there have been a lot of stories that have been thrown around about Grayson Murray throughout the years, from his kind of random disputes that he'd get into, seemingly drunk on X, some weird comments that he'd made, the motorcycle or the scooter crash that he got into at the 2022 Barracuda. Man, I'm sure there was a time where he didn't know if this was ever going to be possible again. And for him to have now one PGA Tour win, another victory, and to get back to where he is right now, man, this was a guy who was, people touted him as a young golfer, a good amateur. And, it wasn't the path I'm sure that he thought it was going to be, but now that he's a PGA Tour winner, man, it's a bright future for Grayson Murray. And I know he's not a fan favorite out there, but it was a super cool story on Sunday, no doubt about it.
Well, I mean, in general, if you chalk it up, like think about what you just said with Rory 3-putting on the DP World Tour, the same day that Grayson drains from 39 feet. Tommy Fleetwood ended up winning that event in Dubai. Grayson Murray has a PGA Tour win. What does Tommy Fleetwood not have?
That's crazy. That's crazy. I don't know if the Tommy win's going to come in 2024 over in North America. I bet him a lot last year, and I don't know if I can do that to myself again this year. You think Tommy's winning this year? Before we go on to our next topic, let me just get this thought out of you real quick. You think Tommy's winning in America this year?
I like how fast he ended up winning on the DP Tour. I do, especially with all the big events that are coming in that Tommy's registered for. I do like that he got one early, and it was against a loaded field on the DP Tour. I think there could be a nice transition there where I can't give a definitive answer. I think it's more 50-50. But I think for how long we've been waiting for Tommy Fleetwood to break through and just win a PGA Tour event, I think he has better odds now than he did prior because he's off to a hot start.
Yeah, I would completely agree on that front. I'm not guaranteeing it to happen, but I know there's a lot of people that are fans of Tommy Fleetwood that are going to have fun following him to see if he is able to achieve that this season. Ross, before we kind of move things on here real quick, did you have any final thoughts from the Sony Open that you wanted to get into? Any last takeaways or anything before we kind of jump ship?
I was really impressed to see a lot of the guys that you would normally see middle of the pack, lower leaderboard in other events, up competing off to a hot start. So I'd be excited to see moving forward now that we're going to more of the signature events and just the bigger overall, the larger field, more complete field, if you would. I'm excited to see if some of those guys can continue on and keep the momentum, especially because, you end up throwing out 2 weeks ago, it was a 60-man field. Yeah. Now we had the Corn Ferry Tour guys get introduced. Not a lot of them made a lot of noise, other than Tyga, which good for him for being up on that leaderboard after day 3. That's awesome. But we did see a lot of the lower end players kind of show up for this tournament. I'd like to see if some of them could actually keep the momentum going, moving into like the Amex and everything moving forward.
And that's always a really interesting debate, just because this time of the year, you don't have a ton of guys with recent form from the holiday and the new year. And obviously this is the third event of the new season. Feels like it's a real good opportunity for those guys who played last week in Sony or played both weeks, played at Kapalua as well, to really build on that momentum and put a stamp on the season early. So should be fun. We'll break down La Quinta in a second. What you got something else to say, Ross?
The only thing that always comes to mind with these early tour events to start the season is think about the best example is going to be Scotty Scheffler, where these are the events that Scotty Scheffler rose to fame from. Scotty Scheffler was a no name in the middle of the pack. Scotty Scheffler ran off several wins and then won the Masters out of nowhere because he was on a hot streak. Now he's the #1 golfer in the world and has been for 2 calendar years.
We saw Jon Rahm go on a very early season run that was similar, that led to a victory for him at the Masters as well. So we'll see who's going to be able to take advantage of these opportunities this year. Ross, before we get into the American Express, though, it looks like there's a rumor floating around that another one of the PGA Tour's major champions could possibly be departing for LIV Golf. And that, of course, is Wyndham Clark, the 2023 U.S. Open champion, who also won a signature event last year at the Wells Fargo Championship, which That's no longer a ambassador of the PGA Tour. Their name's no longer involved with that tournament. Feels like, yeah, just these last couple weeks, man, it's just negative momentum against the PGA Tour. And look, it's not official as of yet, but just even the rumor out there that Live Golf could now possibly get another major champion. I mean, it's just bad news bears for the PGA Tour, brother.
So before I even took over this role, you and I had already kind of had some conversations about this. I wrote the article about John Rahm leaving for Live, and I included in that article, Live is trying to make a statement right now because there is not a deal in place. They're going to strike quick. They're going to strike fast. They got John Rahm. What is going to stop them from going after Wyndham Clark and even Brian Harman to get all 4 reigning major champions on the Live Tour? That's what they want and what they're going to push for. But the thing is, I don't know how many of the rumors and the details you saw on this Clark thing are, but they're saying Wyndham Clark has been in contact with them since prior to Christmas. That now it's kind of coming to the fold where they're kind of closing up the deal, and it looks like he's going to go join John Rahm's team and be that 4th member to close out that team. I'm not surprised with them going for this because they don't have a deal in place. So we're going to continue to take your best. And by the way, now we're potentially going to have 3 of the 4 major champions on the Live Tour. That's a terrible look for you.
I mean, man, and I've been saying that Wyndham Clark for the last handful of months, it would make a lot of sense for him to go. And if all of these rumors are true and that he's been in negotiations for over a month now, like, I don't understand why he wouldn't. This is a very good opportunity for him to maximize on what was just the best year of his career, winning a major, winning a signature event. His value has never been higher. Like, this is a great opportunity for him to cash in. I don't know in what world he wouldn't. And to go and join John Rahm's team, I mean, that's going to put him in the spotlight over there on Live Golf. We know he's exempt in major champions because of his victory last year at the US Open. It seems like there's just like a narrative going around with Live. They know what type of guys they can get, they want to get. They know guys will go if you make the number right. And look, for the players, it feels like it's done past the time of sticking up for the PGA Tour. Like, I don't understand what more the PGA Tour has to be doing everything in their power right now to get this to stop right here, right now. Because if Wyndham Clark goes, could you imagine if they have 3 of the 4 major champions? What would Brian Harman be staying for? For his pride to stay on the PGA Tour? Like, there's no reason for him really to stay either.
Well, I mean, especially like you said, it makes sense for Wyndham to go based on what he's done in his career. I don't know if you're familiar. There was that tweet or whatever that the PGA put out 6 months ago prior to everything or just as he won the US Open, and it was Wyndham Clark first 3 years on tour total earnings were like $1.9 million. Wyndham Clark 2023 was over $9 million won. What do you think he's going to do if Liv approaches him and says $400 million right now? The dude's in year 4 of professional. He's made $14 million professionally at this point. If someone comes and offers me $400 million to come over right now and do this, why would I not do that? And especially because I can't rely on my game is good right now. I'm one of the best players in the world right now. But what happens if I continue to stay on the PGA Tour and my game were to fall off? Why would I not take that guaranteed thing right now, especially if it looks like we're eventually going to merge? Take my paycheck now. Get what I'm due now.
And for Wyndham Clark, I'm sure he has this new belief in himself, right? Like, winning a major championship is going to give you a ton of confidence moving forward, right? But he's someone who wasn't just like thrown into the spotlight and wasn't expected to be this, star or anything. He had to grind it out for 3 years. And I'm sure he's well aware of the ups and downs in professional golf and just how hard it is to remain consistent. And when you get a lucrative offer like that, when your scores are not a given in this game, like, it's just such a freedom, kind of like I talked about earlier with Grayson Murray, what this win allows him to do, what that deal would allow Wyndham Clark to do. is just feel that just sense of relief that he doesn't have to worry about that. I'm sure, being a major champion, that certainly is going to aid in that too, but it just removes that stress even further a little bit, which is such a prevalent part of professional golf. I just don't see it in any world. If these rumors are true, why Wyndham Clark wouldn't end up there in the next couple weeks.
I mean, I personally got to see this growth live, where when I attended the PGA Championship here in Rochester in May, Wyndham Clark had just won his first career PGA Tour event 2 weeks prior. No one knew who he was on the tee, even though he had just won. Like, that's how quick all of this comes around, and where he's looking and assessing his career is this was like a 6-month thing of I win my first PGA Tour event. No one really knows who I am. I win a major. Now people know who I am. And let's be honest, in life, everyone wants to feel wanted. The Live Tour is throwing the bag at him to come over right now. Why would you not just do that? Especially if they're going to, it looks like, fingers crossed, we're going to come together at some point. Why would you not go get your payday and get that money? Which I think is going to, obviously we're coming to a deadline. We're less than a month before people have to declare for Live. I think he's going to be one of the last big people to go, but I think he's going to go, and I wouldn't blame him at this point.
Yeah, I'm 100% in the same boat. Going to be interesting to see what transpires in these next couple of weeks before that next deadline occurs, to see if more people are going to be joining Wyndham Clark, what's all going to be happening there. It's just a rather sad stage of the PGA Tour, man. And just kind of along with this topic of stars just being plucked like this, how about all the tournament sponsors just dropping left and right for the PGA Tour? I mean, now we've lost the Farmers is reportedly not signing another deal after 2026, I believe it is, or maybe next year's even the last year, one of the two. But down Farmers, which has been a staple of the PGA Tour for a while, down the Wells Fargo, which Wyndham Clark won last year, down the Honda this season as well. I mean, it's literally like Jay Monahan is that meme of that guy sitting in the burning house on fire saying, "I'm fine, everything's fine." Like
Everything
literally
is fine.
everything burning, everything around the PGA Tour right now is burning. It's terrible.
Yeah, I mean, you could even lead that into, look at the sponsorship deals, like the clothing and apparel. We have guys leaving name brands that they've been with for a decade, going with no names and all these other companies where it's a free for all. People are taking money left and right where they can get it because they're not sure the PGA can guarantee me this money moving forward.
Yeah, it's a sketchy time, man. And just there are so many different things that show the era was pointing in the wrong direction with the PGA Tour, man. It feels like it's really impending doom, and something's got to give. Something's got to change. There needs to be some sort of positive outlook. I don't know how exactly to make it happen, but everyone who's a higher up for the PGA Tour has got to be scrambling on all fours, figuring out a way to stop this fire, because literally, Ross, with like each passing week, it feels like the PGA Tour's value is just plummeting more and more and more.
And every move they make from here is beyond important. They are falling behind, which is very hard to say because I love the PGA Tour and I love golf, but they are falling behind, and Live is very quickly becoming the superior in this right now because they can, and they know they can. And everyone laughed at the idea and thought they couldn't take over. And Live is showing us that they can, and they will, and they will continue to do this without some type of resolution and partnership moving forward.
It's sad, man. It literally got to the point this weekend. I wasn't even being sarcastic. What does the PGA Tour do well? Is an honest question I'm asking you right here, right now, Ross Baran. What does the PGA Tour do well? Because I'm trying to follow the Sony Open. Listen, it's Sunday, man. I got guys in contention. I got Chris Kirk teeing off at 1:30. Oh, coverage doesn't start until 3 Central Time. Sorry, you just can't watch Chris Kirk's first 7 holes. Oh, and by the way, our shot tracker app on the PGA Tour app, absolute nightmare all week long. I mean, they had Troy Merritt making a 1 at the par 5 18th. Guys jumping up and down the leaderboards. Their scores are changing.
Did you see the boomerang shots? Because those were hilarious. There are multiple players where if you were trying to track on the app with the shot tracker, it was a boomerang where it went out and it came all the way back. They lost track. They just said it ended up back. It went about 180 yards out and it did a 180 and came right back.
Dude, it's a goddamn dumpster fire out here. They can't even get their shot tracker right, man. I genuinely don't know what they do well. What do they do well?
Right now, nothing, which is why we've talked about before. Jay Monahan, when this deal gets done, Jay Monahan just needs to take a paycheck, walk away, step aside. Honestly, hand him a blank check, whatever it is, to get him out of that seat. And just make sure he's out of that seat. But I don't know if you even saw the coverage I was watching on Peacock out here. The coverage didn't even start with the final pairing until they were on hole 4.
Don't understand
it. Let alone, it started at 3:00 is what they said out here that they would start showing coverage. They ran their Golf Central whatever for an hour, showing us Dubai again. And I was like, I already know that Rory 3-putted from 2 feet. I know that Tommy won. I want to see all the guys that are in contention right now starting to tee off. They went an hour before they even put that on. And then when they actually got to the true coverage, they sat and they did interviews and they talked about the day all day. By the time they put the final pairing on TV, Keegan was teeing off on hole 4.
It was terrible. And listen, I do not mean this the wrong way. I thought it was an awesome story. All they could talk about all weekend long was Gary Woodland. And listen, it was an awesome moment to see him recover from everything that he did. But it was primetime number 1, what they were playing every day during the broadcast, saying the same thing all 4 days. Yes, show Gary Woodland some love. He's a great guy, a great golfer. Give him some love for everything that he's overcome and let him share that spotlight. It doesn't have to be the primary story when you have 15 guys in contention on Sunday. And I'm just so sick of them thinking that we want their opinions. We don't want your opinions. We just want the golf. We want the shots. We want to see what guys are doing on the course. We don't want your pregame central. Oh, well, this is what I think. Jordan Spieth in the Hall of Fame. I don't know. He's not playing this week. Stop. We don't care about your opinions, Brandel Chambly. Save it. Save it for your podcast, bud.
I mean, let alone, I don't know if you've been following the Korn Ferry Tour event that's going on. The Korn Ferry Tour went with an alternate start where they're playing Sunday through Wednesday this week.
What?
They're playing Sunday through Wednesday this week, so guys have a shot to make the Amex. There's been zero coverage with all the PGA Tour's deals and everything they have for screen time. There's literally a golf channel. They're still putting Golf Central Live, everything. Put a Korn Ferry Tour event on there. I want to see some of the up-and-comers. I will watch them golf in the Bahamas right now, because I want to see if someone wins an event and catches a flight to California red eye because they automatically qualified.
Yeah, that would be a cool story, and I'm sure everyone out there would much rather actually see some golf being played than 2 people sitting in a studio talking about it. It's not that hard. The PGA Tour, they just need a full overhaul of so many different things. We could go on a rant for another hour, I'm sure, about this, Ross, but it's clearly showing that not good days for the PGA Tour we are in the midst of right now.
But since we brought it up, I would like to jump into our next topic since we brought up the Korn Ferry Tour.
Oh, yes, good point.
The story that happened this week of obviously the Korn Ferry Tour is the PGA's version of minor league golf where guys get called up for their performance. We had Mr. John Learis make his first Korn Ferry Tour start this week in the Bahamas and have it end abruptly and quickly in the most unfortunate way possible. This man has played the mini tour for several years, finally earned his Korn Ferry Tour spot, teed off on the 10th hole, hit a great drive on the 10th hole to start the first round. His second shot over the green into what he believed was the hazard. He walks up to the free relief zone, drops a ball. After he drops the ball, his playing partners signal, John, your ball isn't wet. It's up here and playable. Picks up the ball, goes up, plays the initial shot, holes out, to only be greeted by tour officials and say, "Sir, you have been disqualified from the event." Because the official rules say when he dropped that second ball and it touches the grass, that is the ball.
That is very, very unfortunate. And I'm sure at the time, for a guy making his first start as a full PGA Tour member, right? Get cut abruptly by one hole is pretty unfortunate.
Well, considering, the Corn Ferry, the guys that finish in the top 30 at the end of the year automatically get a card for the following year on the PGA Tour. That's the top 30. We're talking about John Learis. This is his first event ever. He is at the bottom of the list. John needs to play well, play as many holes as possible, and move his way up this list, where he's probably on this tour 1 or 2, 3 years to even have a shot at that top 30. His first event, his new dream is cut short after a hole. Sir, go home. You're done.
Man, that is a toughie. I didn't even know that was going on throughout the tournament. There was a lot of crazy stuff happening, but man, that has to be, has there ever been anyone that has had a shorter official round than him? 1 shot, 2 shots, maybe?
I would say he's probably got the run for the fact that you were greeted the second you came off the hole. "Sir, did you drop a ball in the fairway?" "I did." "Did you pick it up and come play your original?" "I did." "Okay, well, you're out."
The real question is, do you think he stayed in Hawaii through the rest of the weekend, or do you think he took a flight straight out of there? Real talk.
Oh, I feel you got to get out. At that point, I would bail.
Just be like, this place ain't for me, man. I've seen enough. I'm going to be on my way. Maybe we'll run this thing back next year, 2025. Maybe I'll have a better go at it.
I mean, the unfortunate thing for him is how hard it is to even make the PGA Tour and earn these qualifications. That your first tournament where even Corn Ferry Tour pays money, but barely anything. It's you flew all the way out there, you got nothing when you already got nothing in your pocket.
Yeah, that's a toughie. Well, wishing better days for him, man. Hopefully that's a learning moment, and I'm sure something like that will never happen to him again. And what I was saying earlier is I'm sure at the time, not very funny, but it's probably going to be something he looks back at in a couple of years and goes, "Oh my God, what a doofus I was." Hopefully with a lucrative check or a lucrative bank account and maybe a couple trophies alongside him.
I'm gonna, just for the sake of him, I'm gonna declare our show, we are John Learis fans moving forward, and best of luck, buddy, on your KFT tour career. That we're cheering for you moving forward, because that is just a tough one to start out on.
Yeah, throw it in the bio. We're the founders of the John Learis the fan club. Throw it in the bio officially. Go. All right, Ross, you got anything else from the Sony Open that you want to discuss before we get to the Amex here?
Not really. I mean, it was a great start to the PGA year, especially having a full field. I'm really excited, especially with Amex moving into this week. We're gonna get a lot of big names back. Obviously, I'm a blockhead, so we got Michael Block in the field. Can't wait. You and I were talking. He sent me a signed visor this week, which is pretty fucking sweet. So it's already just off camera here in my studio desk. So I'm a big blockhead. So let's go, Blocky. We want to see you make the cut, make a little bit of money in this.
Yeah, I was just about to say you got a little surprise from Blocky earlier in the week. Second surprise, though, is he's going to be in this field this week. He qualified for the Amex, baby. Love to see it.
Yep.
But yeah, the American Express is, pretty good field. We got 22 of the top 50 in the official world golf rankings here, headlined by 4 of the top 10, Scotty Scheffler, Patrick Cantlay, Xander Schauffele, Wyndham Clark, interestingly enough, in the field as of right now. I'm sure he'll still be playing, but obviously there's some things going around about him that we just talked about, and some other good players as well. Tom Kim, Ricky Fowler, Tony Finau, Minwoo Lee's making his first start in 2024. Same with Justin Thomas, Shane Lowry, JT Poston's back for another week. Chris Kirk is back for another week. It's a pretty good field. But before I kind of go in depth into the course breakdown that I usually do, Ross, I am curious, with this being one of the two pro-ams on the schedule. Personally, for me, there are just a bunch of different things that I don't really love about this event. What are your kind of thoughts on the American Express?
American Express, I like a pro am here and there. I wish one of these would be worked a little further into the schedule than the beginning of the year when we're starting to, especially when we had a very good tournament this past week with the field. I think it almost feels a little bit too showbiz to kick off a program all week 3 4 we're going to a program right away. The other thing that just popped in my head that I wanted to bounce off you, because I'm not entirely sure, if Wyndham goes, are they going to readjust the top 150 again?
Oh, that's a really good question, and something we didn't even bring up during our Sony recap. The only reason why Carl Yuan was in that spot is because John Rahm joined Live. He got the extra spot in the top 125.
But
that would be interesting.
But he left prior to the official year tournaments
Right.
actually starting. If Wyndham goes in these next 4 weeks prior to Live starting, will they do a readjustment again where we're going to have another get in the top, the top 50? We're going to have another go in the top 125, and then we're going to have another qualify for the Aon 5 and the Aon 10.
Yeah, I honestly think they probably
I don't know.
will.
I just don't know if they would do a mid-season adjustment based on the fact that potentially it could have been someone else 2 weeks ago got that spot, and now it could be someone different 3-4 weeks is in that spot.
Yeah, that's very valid as well. I could see it going either way. Both ways do kind of make sense to me, as weirdly as that sounds. But yeah, that will be interesting, and some details that they're gonna have to work out if Wyndham is on his way out. But for me personally, I'm just not a huge fan of this event for multiple different reasons. One, I don't really like events where we have a course rotation, let alone a 3-course rotation, which is what's happening here in La Quinta. They'll be at the Pete Dye Stadium course, the Nicholas course, and then they'll have to travel 5 miles to La Quinta Country Club. For those who are unaware, by the way, this is one of 2 pro-ams on the PGA Tour schedule. And how it's going to work is each golfer in the field, there's 156 players in the field this week. They'll each be played with an amateur, and they'll each play 1 round at each of the 3 courses. The cut won't be made until after Saturday, so after 54 holes instead of 36 holes. And then everyone who does make the cut on Sunday will play their final round at the stadium course. But with this being a pro-am, and have you seen the bunkers at the Pete Dye course? I mean, they're huge walled bunkers. They're like notorious bunkers on the PGA Tour, some of the hardest to get out of. We're on the West Coast, already struggling for daylight. These rounds take forever because these amateurs are stuck in these bunkers, and it's just difficult for them to play. We also only get shot tracker and cameras at the Pete Dye Stadium course. So La Quinta Country Club, you're playing at the Nicholas course. Your scores are just inserted on the app. You don't get to follow anyone along. So to me, it's just a little bit frustrating. Like, I don't love this event as a whole, but at least I will say they're making it a little bit more watchable with the field that they're presenting here. And one idea I've kind of seen thrown out there, Ross, with the PGA Tour losing so many title sponsors, do you think they beefed this one up and sent Scotty, Patrick, and Xander to the Amex to make sure they're not losing American Express anytime soon?
Yes, 100%.
It only makes sense.
Right? I think anybody that has that type of sponsorship or sponsorship level, they are sending them emails, texts, calls. We need you there, just so you know. I know it wasn't on your schedule, but we need you there now.
Yeah, I could see like Cantlay and Xander going because they're California guys, and they usually do play most of the California events. But Scotty Scheffler, I feel like definitely got a phone call like, "Hey, bud, we're gonna need you out in La Quinta 3rd week of January or whatever this is now." I feel like Scotty definitely got a call, but pretty good field though is the one non-complaint that I have. And Daniel Berger is back for the first time since the 2022 U.S. Open, Ross. Funny enough, Daniel Berger is one of my favorite golfers, a huge reason why I'm into golf the way that I am right here, right now. But man, it felt like he fell off the face of the earth. And I'm sure there weren't like many people trying to like track down Daniel Berger and see what he was up to. But like once every 2 months, I'd give him a Google search. I'd search him on X to see if there were any updates, and just straight nothing. Like, I knew he had a back problem, but there was belief that he was going to come back around the US Open last year. And then I heard during the fall that he was potentially going to play during the Shriners or the Fortinet, and that never ended up happening. And finally, here he is, Daniel Berger, 18 months after missing the cut at the US Open. He's finally making his next start. Pretty crazy.
I have been Googling and searching Daniel Berger just about every other day since he made this disappearance of when is he going to get back, because he's such a fiery personality on the tour, a fiery player, get just super enthusiastic, where I've been waiting for him to come back because right now golf needs him.
Yeah, I completely agree. And this is a guy who has top 10s in his career in 3 of the 4 major championships, a 4-time PGA Tour winner, and was inside.
Ryder Cup.
Yeah, Ryder Cup, was a member of the United States winning team at Whistling Straits. And I think he was like 18 or 17 in the world rankings before suffering this injury. So a really big time player that the PGA Tour is getting back here. Curious to see how long it's going to be before Daniel Berger shows some form. Obviously, there's no guarantee that he's going to find it again, but coming off of a back injury, you know, we've been talking about Will Zalatoris too, kind of what's going to be happening with him. Yeah, he did not look very, at least he had a better round 2. At least he had a better round 2, Ross. Round 1 was real gross for him at the Sony, but Daniel Berger, listen to this. I know you're not into the golf betting type of stuff, but and maybe this won't make any sense to you. Daniel Berger was like 45-1 odds to open up this morning, and his first start in 18 months. Like, what are we talking about? This guy hasn't played competitive golf in 2 years. You think people are going to bet him at 45-1? It was just pretty hilarious seeing like the sports books just wanting to be cautious and like, no one's going to bet Daniel Berger at 45-1, buddy. This guy hasn't played in 18 months. It was just kind of funny seeing that. But anyways, I do want to get into a little bit deeper of a dive here on the American Express. But before we do, Ross, I mentioned to you before the show, there's a pretty clear top 6 here in La Quinta this week. We got Scotty Scheffler, Xander Schauffele, Patrick Cantlay, Sung J M, Tom Kim, Justin Thomas. Out of those 6, who would you be most inclined to back, or who do you feel most confident in going into this week?
I was looking at Tom Kim and Patrick Cantlay.
And for Tom Kim, one thing, I'm actually looking at Tom Kim this week as well. One thing that I've noticed about the American Express, it's obviously California, but it's one of those courses where you need to stay clean tee to green. If you get wayward, you're going to find yourself in a whole lot of trouble. And it's kind of similar to other desert golf courses that we've seen. Now, I'm not really necessarily going to compare it to the Waste Management Phoenix Open because that's just a big boy event. And we see a whole lot of better players. It's just a better field all in all compared to this. But the Shriners Children's Open is a very interesting course that I've heard be compared to obviously there's 3 courses hosting the event this year, but I've just heard some people shouting out desert golf in a sense. And Tom Kim, obviously back-to-back defending champ at the Shriners Children's Open. So I thought he was very intriguing this week. And Patrick Cantlay rolls the rock very well. Over the last decade, every winner of this tournament has reached at least 20 under. And we heard John Rahm himself, 2-time champion of this event, say it's kind of just a putting contest. And that's really what it is here. You got to be good with your second shots. You got to be good with your putter. So I'm looking for guys who can get hot with their putter and have those big spike weeks. I don't know if I'm going to be getting on anyone at the top here necessarily. Tom Kim is probably the guy that's the most intriguing to me, though, especially because he's got a little bit larger odds down the board. But I'm going to be targeting guys who can be really hot with their irons and can get super hot with that putter. Minwoo Lee is someone who I already got on my card, and he has a top finish.
Freshly signed by Lululemon.
Yeah, absolutely. And he just had himself a very big fall. And one thing that stood out to me too is TPC Sawgrass. I don't want to say they're similar because Pete Dye is only one part of the 3 courses here. He's only the architect for one of them. But with all of them having that same kind of style, you need to play clean from tee to green. You might club down to reward accuracy, and you need to get hot with the putter. Minwoo Lee had a top 10 at the Players' Championship this past year. So he was someone that was interesting to me, but before I go a little bit further, Ross, I do want to hear, was there anyone else at all in the field that you would maybe be keeping an eye on this week that you like?
No, honestly, I'm looking at, even though I'm not the biggest fan of him, I'm looking at Patrick Cantlay. Only because I know Patrick Cantlay golfs a lot with like Michael Block. They play a lot of these courses the way they're set up. That's basically his off season. That's where he's practicing. That's where he's working on his shots, everything. I think for starting the season, this is one of those events where I'm not going to be surprised to see Patrick Cantlay come out and go low, especially with the putting. And also, I'm not going to be surprised to see someone like Michael Block, where obviously the past history of these events doesn't make the cut. I wouldn't be surprised to see Michael Block make a cut here for the type of course we're playing, because it is home turf, it's home style, everything. But Patrick Cantlay was the way I was leaning this week. I wouldn't be surprised to see him go low and just kind of take control.
Hey, and what's interesting about that is historically this tournament is just kind of all over the place. Like John Rahm has won it twice, but other than that, we have seen some mega bombs win here. Hudson Swafford. I believe Andrew Landry won here coming off of 5 consecutive missed cuts. Like we have seen some absolute bombs win because there really isn't any like clear player type that has an advantage. It's just if you can go out and be aggressive, make a lot of birdies, get hot with the putter, this place can kind of suit anyone.
I feel like a lot of this comes down to what amateur are you paired with. If the amateur you're paired with can swing a stick and keep a little bit of pace and keep you in rhythm, I feel like you're going low.
Low key, that's a good point.
I feel like if you're getting paired with an amateur that's going left, right, everywhere, and by the time you're at your second shot, they're on their fourth, I feel like you're dead in the water in these kind of things, where you don't have a sense of rhythm to keep going. If you get paired with someone that, it's a par 4 and they're going to do six with a 2 or 3 putt, you're going to have a shot because you're in rhythm.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. That's a good point that I didn't even think about. I don't know if we can necessarily dive into how good the amateurs that they're going to be playing with are and how we're going to rank them properly. But yeah, I do imagine it would be hard to kind of get in a rhythm when your round's taking 7 hours long,
It may not be a big thing, but I feel like if I were in professional shoes, that would be a thing that would throw me off. I have a rhythm, I have a pace, everything. If the dude I'm paired with is a hack and I'm going to be on this hole for 15 to 20 minutes, that's going to throw me off. I'll be honest. That is going to throw me off. I have a rhythm and a pace I want to keep. If the dude that I am paired with can swing a stick, kind of hold his own, or at least keep a little pace, I feel way more confident. I'm going to be more on my game.
Yeah, that's a good point that you bring up there. I wanted to pull up this comment that I missed from earlier. Bruno says JT Poston season. Big JT Poston guy. I've been betting him every tournament, and he definitely has my eye here once again. I mean, a phenomenal 61 to finish strong last week. He's been knocking on the door. If I don't bet him, I'm going to have some serious FOMO. What it comes down to for me, Bruno, is whether or not I'm going to have the room to fit JT Poston in my card, because I have already bet Minwoo Lee at 35 to 1. I've also already bet Chris Kirk at 50 to 1. And maybe that's just me clinging on to what was a little bit too much from 2 weeks ago. But I'll tell you what, Ross, he just could not make a putt to save his life over the weekend, man, which was really like the polar opposite of what had happened his first 6 rounds to start the new season. He was just making everything so calm, cool, and collected. Yeah, he didn't have a great weekend, and that may turn some people off, but he was still one of the best players in the field on approach. He just couldn't make a putt. So I feel like it's probably a good spot to go back to Chris Kirk here on a place where he could get hot again, have a lot of wedges and short irons into these greens. We know he's accurate from off the tee box. So I kind of just went back to Chris Kirk this week. What are your thoughts on that?
Personally, I'm going to let Chris Kirk ride off into the sunset until he just nabs one. But I support you in your decision of riding the Kirk train. Also going to give a shout out to Patty G back again. Thanks for tuning in. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Could be wrong. Hopping back on the Kirk train. We're going to see. There's one more week, I think, of this, him playing well with his iron. So I can live and die a ride with that.
So can I hold you to that? That this is the last week that we're going to see Chris Kirk in that final. And if it does not work out, you're gonna let him go for overall better health, mental health of yourself and your bets. We're gonna let him go if he doesn't show up.
Yes, that is 100% agreed upon. I already have too many boys that I hold my heart to. And believe me, Ross, if Keegan would have won last week and I didn't have money on it, it would have broken my heart. It would have broken my heart.
Hey, we were texting on Saturday night that Keegan versus everybody. That even though you didn't have money on him, there's just a part of us that we need Keegan to be in the winner's circle at the end. That it's just better for golf.
It is better for golf. A part of me, even if I'm not on him, will always be rooting for Keegan. I was sad to see that he couldn't get it done. Real quick here, though, I'll throw out some other names that I do have some interest in, or there's a couple other players that I've already bet. Bo Hostler is someone I'm interested in this week, a California guy in California. Been knocking on the door for a while. Hasn't played in 2024 yet, but was really good during the swing season. Alex Noren is someone who's interesting to me as well. Had a pretty another good week last week in Maui. He's 80-1. I thought he was interesting. I already locked in Nick Taylor once again at 150-1 odds. They gave me basically double what he was last week. I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I already smashed the button on Nick Taylor, 150-1. Ben Griffin was a little bit interesting to me for the second consecutive week, but I'm riding already with a lot of my guys from last week as it is. Who else was interesting to me? Billy Horschel was someone who popped up on a lot of my charts as well, and I've seen people tagging him all throughout the week. I don't know if I'm going to get on Billy. I like Billy Ho. I don't know if I'm going to get on him this week, but just some other people that I saw in the models. Make sure to stay tuned for the rest of the week, though. As we get closer to Thursday, I'll obviously have these picks finalized. But what I got right now is Minwoo at 35, Chris Kirk at 50, Nick Taylor at 150. That's what I was forgetting. I had Seamus Power as well at 250-1. He lost like 9 strokes putting last week, but gained 5 from tee to green. And he's historically a pretty good putter, but doesn't matter now because Seamus Power withdrew like an hour and a half ago. So I'll be getting that money back into my account and I'll be having it on someone else. But only 3 plays as of now. We'll probably have some more. I'll probably have some more, I guess I should say. Adam Hadwin was someone who was a little bit interesting to me as well. Someone who has played good at the Shriners Children's Open in the past, Desert Golf. So, yeah, going to be finalizing these picks in the next couple of days before I get to it. But other than that, that's really all I got for the Amex. And not going to lie, I don't really love betting this event because I feel like it's a crapshoot. You're just rolling the dice. It's a putting contest. Whoever can get to 26 or 27 under is probably going to win this thing. But hey, it's a tournament going on. I'm going to have money on it regardless. So hopefully I'll be able to come away with a winner, though, because a couple of painful Sundays to kick off the year, man. A couple of cool storylines with the winners. But for me personally, I could have had it going a different way. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, we're going to hope that the vibes turn for you. But I will say, Billy Ho, I like the Billy Ho pick. Billy Ho is actually a target I would love to get on the show at some point in the future because Billy Ho is just so awesome in general. But also, Minwoo Lee, love the pick in general. That guy is just so damn entertaining. It's so much fun to watch him hit that stinger.
Oh, yeah. He's an electric factory, and I know a lot of people are expecting big things out of him this year, man.
Well, especially, I showed Emily, my girlfriend, because I told her that he signed the deal with Lulu, which obviously, like every other woman in the world, she loves Lulu. So now she's got a new favorite golfer. She laughed so hard when she watched the video of it's Minwoo Lee, and then this dude just has the thickest Australian accent out of nowhere. Just does not fit the looks, anything. He's an electric factory in general, and I'm looking for a big year from him in general.
Yeah, he's just something about him. Like he's just stick skinny. He's got the long like mullet going on. Does not look like he'd have the Aussie.
He's got the perfect stash going.
Let him cook, baby. I'm all in on Minwoo this week, baby. Let's get it done. Ross, you got any final thoughts before we kind of close this thing out? I know we're right at an hour here. We got another football game going on, so I'm sure people are tuning into that. Any final thoughts before we close out our second show of the new season here, brother?
Not really, man. We're gonna sit and we're gonna see how this Amex goes. obviously pro-ams, you never really know what's going to happen until it happens. But I'm excited to sit, and we're going to get deeper and deeper into the golf season, and we'll continue reporting what the hell is going on.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not gonna lie, this might be one of those tournaments. There's not many of these tournaments. It's might just be this one, honestly. I just hate you can't watch this tournament for the first 3 days. It just takes so long. They only got one of 3 courses on TV. This might be one of those where I just kind of set my bets and then check in on Saturday and hope for the best. I'm not gonna lie to you. But we're always covering whatever's going down. If we got big news, we'll always be on it. We got one more comment that we got here from Anthony Costa. Anthony, just want to say thank you very much for all the support. And to everyone out there, make sure you go and follow On Tap Golf on X. I know we're Golf on Tap, but that's the handle that you can find it at on X. Also, make sure to go and use the promo code On Tap at Bet Rivers, because if you do, you'll get up to a $250 match on your first deposit. Thank you, everyone, once again, for always tuning in. From yours truly, Jack Bushman. Go and follow me on X as well, at Jack Bushman2. Go and give Ross a follow. I pointed the wrong way. I am still pointing the wrong way, but go give Ross a follow at RossJohn22 on X as well. Make sure to go in, follow the On Tap Sports Network too if you want Cubs news, Bears, Blackhawks, Bulls, White Sox, beer reviews, movie reviews, all things golf. We got you covered. Go and check out ontapsportsnet.com. Make sure to go and follow On Tap Golf as well so you can get all the latest news as soon as it comes out. We'll tune in to everyone next week. Thanks again for checking out the show.